I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this, honestly. My name's Mike, and I've been married to Lisa for about 7 years now. We met in college, got married young because we thought we were in love, and for a while everything seemed fine. She was the typical overachiever, always pushing herself, a bit bitchy sometimes, but I loved her. We had our ups and downs like any couple, but nothing really prepared me for what I was about to find out. It started about 3 months ago when Lisa began acting a little strange. She'd come home late from her volunteer work at the church, and she'd brush off any questions about where she'd been or who she'd been with. I noticed she was more secretive. Her phone was always in her purse, and she'd hide it whenever I walked into the room. That's kind of normal, I guess, but it was different. She never used to lie about small stuff, and suddenly she was avoiding my eyes, snapping at me more often than not. Then came the sneaky little things, missing her phone, her changing her schedule, and the way she'd get defensive when I asked her about it. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but my gut was telling me something was off. Still, I tried to ignore it, convincing myself that maybe she was just stressed or busy with work and church stuff. That was until I noticed her hiding her phone after her confession sessions at church. One day, I decided to take a look at her messages. I know, that's invasive, but at that point, I was desperate to know what was going on. I snuck into her purse, found her phone, and scrolled through her texts. That's when I saw it. A message from a number I didn't recognize, sent in the middle of the night after a recent confession session. It simply read, "Can't wait to see you again. Last night was incredible. Don't forget what we did." I froze. My heart skipped a beat. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Lisa had been lying to me for months. She'd been sneaking around with the parish priest, Father Thomas. And judging by the timestamps, this wasn't just a one-time thing. It was ongoing, and it was disgusting. I felt a mix of absolute rage and heartbreak. How could she do this? To me? To our marriage? I mean, I knew she wasn't perfect, but I never thought she'd cheat with someone from church, of all places. The one institution I had trusted her to be faithful to. I kept reading, my stomach turning as I read her texts, the flirtatious messages, the way she called him Father T, and how she begged him not to stop seeing her. I even found photos, tiny snippets of their encounters from what I could tell, secret photos she'd taken of herself, of him, and even some from inside the church confession room. It was like a betrayal on every level. And the worst part, the cameras. I remembered hearing about the church security cameras, and suddenly I had a sick feeling in my gut that I could confirm my suspicions. So I did what anyone would do. I went to the church the next day, got access to the security footage, and watched. The recordings were clear. Father Thomas and Lisa sneaking into the confessional room after her sessions, their faces pressed close, her hands all over him, and in some clips you can see her whispering in his ear. Laughing, touching him in ways I never thought I'd see my wife do with anyone. The footage was from multiple angles, and I watched them for hours, feeling sick but also more determined than ever to find out everything. That's how I discovered the full extent of her betrayal, not just a few secret messages, but an affair that was ongoing for months, right under my nose during church of all places. I felt shattered. I wanted to scream, to yell, to do something destructive, but I just sat there numb. I was stunned because I never imagined Lisa, my own wife, would do something so reckless and disgusting. How could she lie so effortlessly? How could she betray me and our marriage like this? I was furious and heartbroken at the same time, trying to process what I'd just seen. I knew I had to confront her, but I also knew that this wasn't going to be easy. It was the kind of thing that could ruin both of us. But I couldn't keep pretending I didn't know. So I decided I'd confront her that night. I didn't sleep much that night, replaying everything over and over in my head. I kept asking myself what I did wrong, if I was ever enough, or if this was just who she was all along. The pain was incredible, and I silently promised myself that I wouldn't let her get away with it, not without a fight. That night, I sat on the edge of our bed, my mind racing, heart pounding. I had everything I needed now, proof, undeniable evidence that Lisa had been cheating on me with Father Thomas. I kept staring at my phone, debating whether I should just blast her with everything all at once or do it slowly, let her sweat a little. Honestly, I was so furious I couldn't think straight. I knew how she'd react. She'd lie, deny, scramble for cover as she always did when she got caught in a lie. That bitch was good at twisting the truth until it suited her. But this time, I wasn't going to let her get away with it. Finally, I made a decision. I would confront her face to face, lay everything out and see just how far she'd go to deny it. I didn't want to hear her excuses or lies anymore. I wanted her to own up or at least see the damage she'd caused. So I waited until she came home from church, pretending everything was normal. I was sitting in the living room when she walked in, her face a little flushed, her eyes darting around nervously. "Hey," she said, trying to sound casual, but her voice betrayed her. "What's going on?" I looked at her, my jaw clenched. "We need to talk," I said calmly but firmly. "Sit down." She hesitated, then slowly sank onto the couch, crossing her arms. "What's this about?" She was trying to act innocent, but I saw the flicker of guilt in her eyes. I pulled out my phone and slowly played the footage I had saved from the church cameras. Her face went pale and her jaw dropped. She tried to deny everything at first, of course. "Mike, I don't know what you think you saw, but—" "Stop," I interrupted. "I saw everything, your little affair with Father Thomas. The texts, the photos, the videos. Don't lie to me anymore, Lisa. I saw what you did." She scoffed, rolling her eyes. "You're overreacting, it's just a dumb mistake. It meant nothing, it was just sex, Mike. We're both adults, aren't we? It's not like I cheated on you with some stranger, it's—" "Don't give me that bullshit," I snapped. "You've been lying for months. You're sneaking around behind my back while pretending to be this good, obedient wife. And the church cameras caught everything. Do you even understand what you've done? You betrayed me and our marriage so completely. You lied about everything, about your confession sessions, about volunteering, about your supposed spiritual journey. All of it was a lie." She looked angry now, her eyes narrowing. "Oh, so now you think you're some kind of victim? Please, I was just having some fun. It wasn't like I was cheating with a guy from Tinder or something. And Father Thomas, he's just a priest. It's not like we're talking about a long-term thing. It was just sex, Mike. It doesn't mean I love him or anything." I couldn't believe her words, that she had the audacity to dismiss it as just sex, like it was nothing. I felt like I was about to lose my mind. She was so bitchy, so dismissive of what she'd done. That's what hurt the most, her attitude, her total lack of remorse. She kept trying to brush it off like she was some kind of victim in her own twisted story. I wanted to yell at her, scream at her, but I knew I had to keep my composure for now. "I loved you," I said, voice trembling with a mixture of rage and hurt. "I thought we had something real, but you threw that away for some quick sex with a priest. Do you even realize how sick that is? Do you even care about how much you've damaged us?" She rolled her eyes again, standing up, her hands on her hips. "Look, Mike, I get it, you're mad. Honestly, I don't see what the big deal is. You act like I slept with the guy. It's just sex, damn it. It's not like I was unfaithful in my heart. I didn't leave you. I just—" "Stop lying," I cut her off. "You didn't just have sex with him. You had an affair. You lied to me, to everyone. You went behind my back, behind the church's back, betraying everything we stood for. And you think you're going to just brush it off and move on." Her face twisted into anger now. "You think I wanted this? You think I wanted to cheat? Maybe I was bored, maybe I was unhappy, but I never wanted to hurt you like this. I didn't plan for any of this to happen, it just did. And now you're acting like I'm some criminal." I couldn't take it anymore. The rage, the betrayal, it all hit me like a freight train. I stood up, my fists clenched, feeling like I was about to explode. I told her that I couldn't keep living like this, that I needed time to think, that I was done with her excuses. I told her I'd been betrayed in the worst way possible and I wasn't sure if I could forgive her. Not now. Not ever, maybe. She stormed out of the room, yelling that I was overreacting, that I didn't understand her, that it was just sex and she'd never do it again. But I knew better. I knew this wasn't something you just forget. This was a wound that would fester forever if I let it. I sat down on the couch, exhausted, devastated, trying to process what I'd just seen and heard. It was like my entire world had been turned upside down. I loved her, I really did, but right now I felt so lost, so betrayed. And the worst part was, I knew this was just the beginning of what I'd have to deal with. The days that followed were a blur. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat properly, and everything around me seemed dull and gray. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, her dismissive look, the way she lied so effortlessly like she didn't even care about what she'd done. I kept replaying that footage, that sickening smile on her face in those secret videos. I couldn't believe I had been so blind, so trusting. She'd always been bitchy, sure, but I never thought she'd betray me like this, especially with someone from church, someone I'd trusted for years. Honestly, I felt like I was drowning. I had so many questions and no one to ask. My friends told me I should just leave her to cut my losses and move on, but I couldn't do that. Not yet. I needed to see how far she'd go, what else she'd admit or what she'd deny. I kept thinking about how she'd try to lie her way out of it, spin her stories, pretend it was all a misunderstanding. That's what she did best, lie and manipulate. One afternoon, I decided to confront her again, hoping for some kind of catharsis. I called her, told her to come over. When she arrived, she looked tense, angry even. She knew I was serious. I handed her my phone and told her to watch the videos again to see what she'd done. Her eyes flicked over the footage and for a moment she was silent. Then she looked up at me with that bitchy smirk. "You really think I'm some kind of monster, don't you?" she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "It's just sex, Mike. You're overreacting. Honestly, I don't see what the big deal is. It's not like I left you. It's not like I stopped loving you or anything." I was beyond furious now. I yelled at her, told her how disgusting she was, how she could try to deny it all she wanted, but I'd seen everything. That's when she turned her attitude up a notch. She started lying, twisting everything around, saying I was paranoid, that I didn't understand her struggles, that I was just jealous because she'd been more successful at church than I'd ever been in my life. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen," she spat out. "I was just bored, Mike, that's all. And yeah, I liked the attention, but I didn't want to hurt you. I swear I didn't want to ruin what we had. It just slipped out of control. You have to understand, I'm not a bad person. I'm just human." I couldn't believe the audacity. Her whole attitude was so bitchy, so dismissive. She acted like she was the victim here, like I was overreacting to some trivial mistake. That infuriated me even more. How could she be so callous? How could she sit there and justify screwing around with a priest, pretending she was the innocent one? I told her flat out that I wasn't sure if I could forgive her, if I could stay in a marriage where trust was so broken. I told her I needed time, space, to figure out if I even wanted to try to fix this. She started crying, pretending to be all remorseful, but I could see through it. That crocodile tears, that fake sobbing, she was just putting on a show. I didn't buy it. Not anymore. That night I stayed up all night, just sitting there, staring at the ceiling, trying to process everything. The betrayal, the lies, the way she dismissed my feelings like they were nothing. I guess part of me still loved her, but another part was so angry, so hurt, I wondered how I'd ever trust her again. I kept asking myself if I was just weak, if I should just cut my losses and walk away. But deep down, I knew I had to figure out what I really wanted and whether I could survive this kind of betrayal. The worst part, I knew she'd lie her way out of it or try to manipulate me into forgiving her. She was good at that, after all. That's what she'd always done, bend the truth, twist stories, and make herself look like the victim. I wasn't sure how much longer I could keep going like this, living in a nightmare of her lies. But one thing was clear: this was just a simple affair. It was a blow to everything I believed in, to the foundation of our marriage. And I was starting to realize that things might never go back to how they were before. Over the next few days, I kept trying to piece everything together. Every time I thought I was done, something else would come up that made my stomach turn. I started digging into more of her phone, trying to find any other evidence of her affair. It wasn't hard. She'd been so careless, leaving her messages open sometimes, or forgetting to delete her texts. Every time I saw those messages, I got this terrible sinking feeling that I'd never see her the same way again. It was like her whole personality had transformed into this manipulative, bitchy person who thought she could get away with anything. One night I was scrolling through her messages again when I saw a new text. It was from someone else, another man. Not Father Thomas, but some guy named Jake. The messages were just as explicit, talking about meeting up, about sex, about how much they missed each other when they weren't together. I couldn't believe it. My wife, the woman I married, was out there cheating on me with other guys, not just once but repeatedly and with a whole bunch of them. That was the moment everything finally clicked. I realized I'd been so focused on her affair with the priest that I'd ignored what was really happening. She was a serial cheater, a liar, a manipulator. I felt so stupid for not seeing it sooner. All the signs, her secretive behavior, her lies, had been there the whole time. I just refused to admit it. I'd been so smitten, so desperate to believe in her that I ignored what my gut was telling me. And then the rage hit me again. She had lied to me for months, played the victim, dismissed my feelings, and now I found out she'd been screwing around with other guys too. It made me feel sick. How could I be so blind? I started thinking about everything she'd said in her defense, how she'd claimed she was bored, that it was just sex, that she didn't mean to hurt me. But this was beyond anything I could have imagined. It wasn't just an affair. She was out there, actively cheating on me with anyone who would have her. I couldn't keep quiet anymore. I decided I had to confront her again, but this time I was prepared. I wanted her to see that I wasn't just some naive husband blind to her lies. I was done playing her game. So when she came over that evening, I pulled her aside, put all the evidence out on the table, screenshots, timestamps, everything. I told her I knew about Jake, about the multiple guys she'd been screwing around with, and that I'd had enough. Her reaction. Oh, she didn't even bother to deny it. Instead, she scoffed, rolled her eyes, and said, "Wow, Mike, you're really overreacting. I was just having fun. You don't own me. Honestly, I don't see why you're so obsessed with all this. It's not like I was unfaithful in my heart. Sex is just sex, right? It doesn't mean I stopped loving you or that I don't care about you." I looked at her with disgust. "You're disgusting," I said. "All these lies, all these guys you've been sleeping with, and you still act like it's nothing. That's not just having fun, Lisa. That's betrayal. You're a serial cheater. You've lied to my face for months, manipulated me, and now you're trying to justify it all. I can't do this anymore." She huffed, crossing her arms again. "Whatever, Mike. You're making a huge deal out of nothing. I told you I was bored. It meant nothing, and I don't regret it. Honestly, I think you're just jealous because I've got options. Maybe you should lighten up and stop acting like I'm some kind of villain." That was the final straw. I looked her right in the eyes and told her I was done. Done with her lies, her manipulations, her excuses. I told her I never wanted to see her again if she kept this attitude. And I told her that I was filing for divorce, that I couldn't keep living with the woman I'd trusted turning into this selfish, bitchy manipulator who thought she could cheat on me and get away with it. She looked surprised at first, then furious. She yelled at me, calling me insecure, jealous, pathetic. She said I was overreacting and that I was ruining everything because I couldn't handle her freedom. Yeah, right. I knew then I had to get out. I couldn't stay in a marriage that was built on lies and betrayal. It was killing me piece by piece. That night I packed some of my things and left. I didn't sleep in our bed. I didn't want to look at her anymore. I knew that from now on my life was going to be different, less trusting, more cautious. But at least I was finally free from her web of lies. For the first time in a long while, I felt a strange mixture of relief and sadness. Sad that it had come to this, that someone I loved so much could turn out to be so dishonest, so manipulative. But also relief. Relief that I finally saw her for what she really was, and that I was taking back control of my life. The days after I left her place felt like a bad dream I couldn't wake up from. I went to stay with a buddy for a while, just to get away from the chaos. The thing that haunted me the most was knowing she was still out there, probably pretending to be innocent, maybe even lying again about everything. I couldn't shake the image of her smiling at her priest, or the way she'd acted so dismissive when I confronted her. It made me sick to my stomach. I kept asking myself how I'd missed all the signs, how I'd been so naive. But what kept me going was thinking about what I needed to do next. I knew I couldn't just walk away without some kind of plan. I wanted her to feel the weight of what she'd done, to understand the damage she'd caused. I decided I'd cut all contact, not just because I was angry, but because I knew that staying involved, even just to argue or confront her, was pointless. She had her new life, her new lies, and I needed to focus on mine now. I started seeing a counselor, not just for the pain of betrayal, but also to help me process everything. It was hard, but I realized I'd been holding in a lot: anger, sadness, confusion, and I needed to let it out. I also started talking to some friends who knew about the situation. Some told me to just cut her out completely, to block her, to move on. Others said I should try to get some closure, maybe confront her one last time. Honestly, I was exhausted from all of it. The truth was, I didn't even know what I wanted anymore. All I knew was that I needed to rebuild myself piece by piece. Meanwhile, Lisa kept trying to contact me: texts, calls, even attempts at guilt trips. She'd say things like, "I was so stupid, I didn't mean to hurt you. Please come back," or "I love you, Mike, we can fix this." I ignored most of it. I knew she was just trying to manipulate me again, to make me feel guilty, to bring me back into her web. But I was done. I couldn't trust her anymore, and part of me wondered if I ever really did to begin with. One afternoon, I finally told her that I was done for good and that I wanted a divorce. I didn't want her to think I was giving her another chance to lie her way out. I wanted her to know that I saw her for what she was: someone who cared more about her secret affairs than her marriage. She threw a fit, screaming about how unfair everything was, how I was overreacting, and that I was crushing her. Honestly, her bitchy attitude was so typical. She was still trying to spin everything her way, even after I had all the evidence. I decided that I needed to take control of my life again, start fresh. I filed the papers, talked to a lawyer, and began to plan my next steps. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done, but I knew it was necessary. Staying married to someone who had so completely betrayed me would only make me bitter and miserable. I also started to think about moving out of town, changing everything I associated with her, even deleting her from my social media. I didn't want her to have any hold over me anymore. The most surprising thing was how much clarity I gained once I started cutting ties. I saw how much of my self-esteem had been tied up in her, how much I'd let her manipulate me into thinking I was the problem. But I realized I wasn't at fault. She was the one who'd betrayed everything we built, manipulated me with her lies, and then had the nerve to blame me for feeling hurt. It was eye-opening and liberating. In a strange way. Looking back now, I see that this whole ordeal has been a wake-up call. It's made me realize how important honesty and trust really are in a relationship. It's also shown me that some people aren't worth the pain they cause, no matter how much you love them or how much history you share. I've learned that being betrayed doesn't mean I'm weak. It means I'm human. And I'm still trying to rebuild my life, piece by piece, stronger than I was before. If there's one thing I want to tell anyone reading this, especially those going through something similar, it's this: trust your gut. Don't ignore the signs. And remember, you don't have to stay in a relationship where you're being disrespected and lied to. You deserve better. I'm still healing, but at least now I know the truth. And that's the first step toward moving on. Now, sitting here reflecting on everything, I realize I've come a long way since that dark night of discovery. It's been months since I left her, and honestly, I feel like I'm slowly putting the pieces back together. The pain of betrayal doesn't go away overnight. Sometimes it hits me out of nowhere, a reminder of how deeply I was hurt, how much I trusted her, only to find out she'd been lying right to my face. But with each day, I'm learning to rebuild my sense of self, my trust in my own judgment. I think the biggest lesson I've learned is that nobody is immune to betrayal, but you do have a choice in how you respond. I could have let her shame me, let her manipulate me into staying and pretending everything was fine. But I didn't. I took control, made the decision to walk away, and now I'm focusing on healing and moving forward. That's not always easy. Sometimes I feel angry or bitter, and that's okay. It's part of the process. I also realized I should have trusted my instincts more. I saw the signs early on, but I dismissed them because I didn't want to believe the worst. Now I know that ignoring your gut only makes things worse. It's always better to face the uncomfortable truths head-on, even if it hurts. That way, you can start the process of healing and rebuilding. To anyone out there going through something similar, I want to say, it's okay to feel broken for a while. It's okay to be angry, sad, or confused, but don't stay stuck there. Find your support, whether it's friends, family, or professionals. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty for wanting the truth or for walking away from a toxic situation. You deserve honesty, respect, and someone who truly values you. Looking back, I see that her betrayal was a reflection of her own issues, not mine. I was naive and trusting, but I've learned to be more cautious with my heart. I've learned that love isn't enough when honesty isn't there, and that sometimes you have to walk away to save yourself from further damage. Now I'm focusing on myself, on my career, my friends, and discovering what makes me happy again. I won't be that naive guy who blindly trusted someone who didn't deserve it. I've grown from this, and I've come to accept that some chapters in life close painfully, but they also make us stronger. So to anyone reading this who's in the thick of betrayal and heartbreak, hold on to hope. It gets better, even if it doesn't seem like it right now. Trust yourself, heal at your own pace, and remember, you're worth more than the lies someone might tell you. I'll keep moving forward, and I hope you do too.